Growing up, society taught you to follow the script by choosing a career path and climbing the ladder. But for many people, this promise falls flat. Work suffocates them and life becomes painful. Here, you're trapped in what I call the corporate cage. Fortunately, there's a way out. You can take control of your corporate job and unlock a life of freedom. I call this living uncaged. Hi, this is your host, Matt Doan. I'm a coach, creator, and entrepreneur. Uncaging people is my mission because it's been my exact life journey. This show provides you the stories, principles, and tactics to make it happen. Welcome to Uncage Yourself. Hey, what's up, my friends? Glad to have you here again. I'm going to start this episode with a little parable. Before I do, just a quick reminder, if you're getting value from Uncage Yourself, I'd greatly appreciate if you hopped on over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify and left a quick review. It helps me a lot, so thank you very much. All right, now on to the parable. Centuries ago, there was a wise Zen master. People came far and wide to seek his wisdom. One day, a successful businessman came to the Zen master and said, "I ask that you teach me about Zen. Open my mind to enlightenment." The Zen master smiled and said that they should discuss the matter over tea. When the tea was served, the master poured his visitor a cup. He kept pouring and pouring until the tea started overflowing onto the table and onto the robes of the wealthy man. Finally, the visitor shouted, "Enough! You're spilling the tea all over. Can't you see that the cup is full?" The master stopped pouring. He smiled at his guest and said this, "You are like this teacup, so full that nothing more can be added. Come back to me when your cup is empty." Hopefully you can see that visual in your mind right now. All right, let's get on to the main points of this episode. With that as the backdrop, first point, your cup is too full. Think about all that you've got going on in your world right now. A demanding 9-to-5 situation. Maybe you're trying to be a good partner, maintain a great household, be an attentive parent, a great friend. And maybe, like everyone, you've got nonstop requests for your time. App notifications, emails, calls, texts. It's nonstop. And it's like playing ping pong in your head. You're all over the place. I could go on with these examples, but you get it. Your cup, it's full. Your career and your life success, when you've got that much going on, has actually entrapped you. You've become so successful that you're now trapped by that success. How ironic, right? And at this point, your default state, day in and day out, is characterized by one word: busy. Now, I'm not preaching here. This used to be me. I prided myself on being busy. I wore it as a badge of honor. I used to share my calendar with people just to show them how stacked it was, to justify why it was hard for me to follow up with text messages or phone calls. Looking back at that, I'm really ashamed, but that's how I was. Being busy was a badge of honor. Now, eventually you get to the point where you're fed up with this chaotic life. You think, enough of this. I want something better, something new. What do those things look like? You want things like controlling your time. Maybe you want to start a business, build a personal brand online to make an impact. Maybe you want to be mentally, physically healthy. Maybe you want to be a better spouse, parent, friend, whatever it is. You've got something new, a feature in your life that you want to create, and it's going to be a hard effort to bring that to life, but you know it's important. You've had enough. So you try to add that new thing to your cup. What happens? Remember, the cup's really full already, so it spills over. There's no room left in your cup. And you're right back to square one. Now, let's think about what we do about this. Second point is this. Knowing that your cup is full, you must empty your cup continuously. Always empty your cup again and again and again. My coaching clients, as an example, are very successful by traditional measures. They come to me and I can see quite clearly their resumes, their bank accounts, their home lives. All of this looks amazing on paper. they've created an amazing life and career for themselves. But inside, their cup is spilling over. They're freaking out. That's why they came to me. And they want to add a new and meaningful feature to their life, like we just described. But where the hell do they start? Can't just add it to a very full cup. So we've got to empty the cup. We've got to make space. And this is a continual effort. So how do we make space? Well, we've got 3 levers that we can pull: time, energy, and mindset. Hey, Matt here. Just a quick break from our show. If you're picking up what I'm putting down on this episode, I want you to run on over to uncagedworkshop.com. There, you'll find something I'm really proud of. I put my heart and soul into a transformative masterclass, helping you go from caged to uncaged. I promise it'll shock you out of conformity and having you want so much more out of work and life. So head on over to uncagedworkshop.com and check it out. All right, back to the show. Before I describe what those actually look like, I'm a bit of a neuroscience nerd and psychology nerd, so I read all this stuff. There's an element of neuroscience called selective attention. It's a very powerful feature of our brain, and it says this: we can only truly say yes to a few things at any given time, whether it's in that moment or within the context of a day or a week or even a year. If we take on too much, we become scatterbrained and inefficient, and our cups start overflowing again. So knowing that our brains can only take on so much, as powerful as they are, we have to be very careful in selectively saying yes to only a few things. Got to create space so that our brain can say yes to the right things that add value to our lives and delete the things that don't add value. So going back to this metaphor, making space in your cup. 3 levers: time, energy, and mindset. Let's go through these. So say you've got no time. How do you deal with this? Here's a few ideas. Number 1, design your ideal week. Take a blank calendar, a sheet of paper, and from scratch, ask yourself, where do your life priorities go? Where would you ideally like to place them across a 7-day span? Time of day, which day, as far as time with loved ones, self-care, workouts, deep work time, creativity, reading, all those things that matter to you. And then ask yourself on top of that, where do I fit in work? I've got a demanding 9 to 5. Sure, I have to deal with some of the realities that it places upon me, but you can selectively start putting parts of your day for work. I will deal with email here. I will condense my administrative meetings here. I will sign off here. I will open email for the first time here. It's very clear. And you start doing this, it becomes a reality day after day. It gets better and better. Number 2, to deal with the time problem, I want you to radically reduce the default commitments at work. Right now, you're probably saying yes to all the things that happen to you, especially if you're new. But as you get more senior, as you get more political capital within an organization, which means you've got seniority and say and a reputation, lean on that. Start saying no to most things. Start deleting them, delegating them, deferring them, questioning them. You can do that because you know the value you're supposed to deliver, and you can question more things ending up on your plate and push back. A third piece for dealing with the time problem is implement digital minimalism. A great book I'd recommend is Digital Minimalism by Cal Newport. And it's about how do you make sure that your phone and your computers, basically all devices in this world, are not overtaking your attention. And you've got to find ways to deal with the psychological effects, the addiction mechanisms that apps, for example, are working to overtake your brain with. And the more that you live an analog life where you are just being a human in space, out in nature with other humans, the better you are, the more clear-minded you are, the more capable you are, rather than letting this fire hose of digital content hit you day after day, whether it's you scrolling social media or it's you at work keeping email and Slack and all this stuff open constantly and checking it during dinner time. We can't let that stuff happen. So that's how we deal with the time problem. A few examples. Second element is if you're lacking energy right now, we have to create space by adding more energy to our plate. So what this might look like is saving your hardest work for your high energy zones. Now, what do I mean by that? I'll use myself as an example. My brain works best from about 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. And I know that if I'm going to do creative work like reflecting and writing or drafting a manuscript for a book or writing out a script for a video, I've got to do those items right during that zone. Because if I save it for later in the day, my brain is at like 50% capacity and I can't afford to do that. So use your high energy zones for your hardest, most important work. Don't let things just randomly show up during those zones. Take advantage of those zones, hold them sacred. Secondly, this is fundamental. I get it. But if you don't check this, you're going to be hurting. And that's commit to proper sleep, nutrition, and exercise. You have to find out what the proper regimen looks like for you. Try different things, experiment. But at the base level, from a sleep perspective, you need a solid 7 to 8 hours. You need to turn off devices an hour before that, or at least block blue light with the right glasses, and make sure that your nutrition is dialed in and your exercise is in a great place. Absolutely do things like take meetings on walks as much as you can. Keep moving, standing desks, all these things help. Deal with energy in the right way. And the last one is an exercise I call an energy audit, where you look at simply all the things you've got going on in a given week, all the people, places, tasks, projects that end up in your world, and slot them into one of two buckets: things that energize you and things that drain you. And your goal from there is to say, let's maximize time spent on energizers, things that give me energy and give me joy and fulfillment, and minimize what I'm doing related to drainers, whether that's people, projects, places. How do I minimize my interaction with those things that drain me in life? So that's the second lever, is dealing with lack of energy. And the third element on how you create space in your life is dealing with the mindset. So we're going to go cognitive here for a second. So say you've got a restrictive mindset. Few things you might do. Number one is delete the news. That stuff is just meant to cast out negative things into the world and keep your attention. Just know that that's what's happening. You can find ways to stay informed on world events without flipping on the TV. Instead, choosing things like trusted news sources, things that are great journalism, things like that. Also, make sure that you're consuming empowering content, not stuff that's negative. You don't want to be around places that are going to just trigger negative thoughts and feeling bad about yourself and pessimism. Make sure that the content you're letting in your brains, whether it's a podcast like this, an audiobook, you're reading a book, you're scrolling through thoughtful social media feeds that add value to your life, make sure you're choosing empowering content. Curate your feed. Secondly, how else you might deal with the mindset and boosting that is establish a morning ritual for attacking each day. Not just a routine where you just go A to B to C like a robot. I'm saying ritual because a ritual is something you've created and tested and you love because you can't wait to do it. It excites you. For me, I get up early, I quietly go meditate, I read, I get my coffee, I journal for a bit, and I think about what I want for my life. I write about it, what I'm going to do that day to make that life come to reality. Every single Monday through Friday, I wake up and do that, and it gives me immense joy. I'm in a great quiet environment. Usually there's a fire or candlelight, and I'm just in this reflective mood, detached from the digital nonsense that's going to hit me later in the day. And last piece on how you might deal with your mindset and improve that is to frankly upgrade your tribe. Look at the people in your life, digitally, in person, family members, friends, colleagues. Don't just accept the default people in your life. Don't just let them dominate your attention span, but actively say who's adding value. Go back to who's energizing you and who's draining you. We want to minimize the drainers in our life and continually add a few people, whether they're book authors, social media folks that are heroes to you and living a life you love. Maybe they aren't even alive anymore. You could think about Churchill or Gandhi or Mother Teresa, right? People that don't even have a presence on this earth anymore can still influence you. You can still upgrade your tribe. Let the right ideas, the right people in your mind. So those are the three levers on how to create space, kind of empty your cup, right? Improve time, energy, and mindset. Doing it is pretty simple when I break it down like that. Not saying it's easy, but it's simple. The actions are clear, concise, and you can make a ton of space by making this your norm, continually clearing up time, energy, and mindset so you are fresh and free and you can see the world with clarity and act with massive intent, right? This whole idea I call addition by subtraction. When we clear out our comp, we empty what doesn't serve us anymore, and we have space, this is us adding new things like building that side business, new relationships, a new health routine, whatever it is. We can add those new meaningful things by first subtracting. And we're always subtracting because we never know when we need space. We're going to want to add new things, but we can't just pile on top of a cup that's already overflowing. So, as we wrap up here, whenever you need a massive transformation, just think the first thing you need to do is empty your cup. Hopefully, you've always been doing this, but create space. In fact, just keep maintaining that space. Always keep space available. Remember this, a crowded mind is not an open mind. Getting a little bit Zen master there for a second here, but you know what I'm getting at here. Crowded mind can't think clearly, can't act clearly. They're restricted. Our default mode just needs to be more empty than full. Think of yourself as a teacup. Keep emptying out. Leave space so that you can breathe and add new and all that good jazz, right? Finally, I'll leave you with 3 points to reflect on. Imagine this in your head right now, okay? What's in your cup? What do you need to empty? And lastly, what would you like to add to your cup? Remember this, an empty-ish cup, not a fully empty, but an empty-ish cup leads to a full life. Keep that in your head. Think of yourself as that teacup. More empty than full. That's how we keep growing and growing. I hope this helps today. We'll chat soon, my friend. Hey, Matt here. Thanks for listening to Uncage Yourself. For show notes and more content like this, head over to uncageyourself.fm. And if you liked what you heard, I'd appreciate you leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Until next time, be well, my friend.